the beauty of biodiversity. And today, Yunnan Province is holding a thematic publicity activity for the biodiversity. And Yunnan is home to a lot of flora and fauna, and it's called as the World Garden. Many of the species here are only seen in Yunnan Province. So today let's visit the Expo Park to know more about biodiversity protection. We have invited Kunming Animal Research Institute, Liu Weiwei, to give us a briefing. Good morning, everyone. I know the publicity activity is going on, and some primary school students are learning. Let's take a look. They are learning about the plants. As you can see, the teachers are introducing many ways of how the plants give birth. They take parts of the parent plants so as to produce the new plants. In this way, our children could have a thorough understanding about the different properties of the plants. Later on, our students will learn how to do the cuttage. Not just one seed can grow up into a big tree. Even the branches can produce some new plants. And those two different species could be joined together in order to produce a new species. In a classroom like this one, as you can see, we have collected many books. When they read the books, they have a brief knowledge, but that's still at the superficial level. They need to use their hands to have first-hand experience. That's more effective learning. Only when they have such a first-hand in-person experience, the knowledge could be learned in a more thorough way. So we welcome all of you to have an experience here. Practice matters more than the learning. So later on, the students will go through the cottage experience. Many people have the misunderstanding that once the seed is sown in the soil, the plants will grow. But actually, for the plants to grow, there must be different stages like breeding and cottaging. So they need to know the whole process. Just like the children growing up, they experience different stages like the infancy and then the teenage years. After years of careful cultivation, they can grow better. Now, this is another classroom. It's about the rubbing of the plants. Previously, we didn't have the chemical paints. So how could we dye the clothes? The primary school students are rubbing the plants. They choose the leaves. The leaves may not necessarily be green or yellow and red when they are withering. In the garden, our plants exhibit many colors. So let's have an interview. Why do you choose these leaves? Because I chose red and green leaves, and they match each other. I used to learn arts. I know that in this way, they are a perfect match, and I'm pretty contented with my work. The students are paying sole attention to their work. The nature is leaving their footprints on the bags, on the cloth bags, and that's one important practice of reducing carbon emission. We include the nature into our bags, and also with that practice, the children could know the difference of different species. And as you can see, their leaves have different shapes. They're not necessarily round in shape. Instead, they have different shapes. And this student is sticking the leaves to the bag. Why? After placing the leaves on the bags, we have to fix the leaves on the bag with the glue to avoid the leaves from moving. What leaves did you choose? We need to choose the juicy leaves. Otherwise, the rubbing will not be perfect. And also, I must choose proper number of leaves, not too many and not too few. So what about you? Are you planning to make your favorite style? Yes. I think I could just split the leaves into pieces and then put them back on the bag. We don't necessarily need to place the entire leaf on the bag. I can see you took notes. Very careful preparation. So with the rubbing experience, we are trying to keep the beauty of nature and the plants. Some people say that taxonomy is taking a step back from our lives, but actually that's not the case. Do you know the birthplace of panda, Chengdu? Whenever we are reminded of panda, we think about Sichuan or Gansu province. But actually, panda is also called the live fossil. So where was the panda's fossil found? Actually, it was found initially in Lufeng of Yunnan province. Our team from the Chinese Academy of Science found the panda's fossil in Yunnan. That's why we call it the live fossil. Is this a panda? At my first glance, I believe it is. And that's exactly why we need to have such a learning activity. Let's turn the cover back. That's the back of a real panda. Now look at this toy. And let's just compare. Previously, we thought we knew enough about panda, but we couldn't preserve panda. Why? Because our understanding of panda is only at the knowledge level. For example, if you compare on the book cover, that's the real panda. That's different from your understanding. So we need to know not just the front of the panda, but also the back. We need to dig deep into the knowledge. And that's why we have such activities for the students to learn such interesting facts. In the education book, the panda is talking directly to the readers. That's the Chinese plan. And actually, panda has been demoted. According to the endangered species ranking, panda's endangering level is reduced, and that's a very good example of how we protect the endangered species. This year we have 1,900 different species of panda, and with our protective efforts, we are trying to rewrite history. This is the greenhouse of the expo, and I see many plants samples. Why do we collect the samples and keep them in the museums? That's because many of the plants' properties are closely related to mankind. For example, the ginkgo comes from distant time before. Do you know what is the birthplace of peaches? Maybe I have to give you the answer. It also comes from Kunming. Peaches belong to the rose family, just like the apples and pears, and the plants belonging to the rose family enrich the offerings of fruits. And here this is Petrinia. It's used frequently in medicine, but now it's not frequently seen. Why? Because we don't wait until it flowers before we eat it. We love to eat the fresh veggies. Sometimes we don't wait long enough for the veggies to grow big enough. And even the bees cannot find honey to eat because we harvest too early. And those are butterflies. Butterflies are quite appealing. And many bugs exist in the world of biodiversity, and this is a bee. We know that the bees can collect the pollens, but do you think bees are the only species to do that? I don't think so. The flies can also do the job. A close relative of the flies can do that same job as the bees. And they could be said as our partners to turn the flowers into food. But not all the bugs are benevolent. This is one killer. The Rhynchophorus ferruginous. And this is the bad guy. If this bug flies into the palm, it will make the tree hollow inside. It's very dangerous to the palms. So that's the proof of biodiversity. And those are the butterflies. Do you know how they look like when they are young? They're cocoons. Yes. They start from just one egg, and then they turn into the cocoons, and then they metamorphosize to be a butterfly. Also, we need to offer a lot of sweet flowers for the butterflies to grow. Now let's go to the greenhouse to look at the unique species of flora. There are 8 famous flowers in Yunnan, and in this house we could also see some other plants imported. This region is about the alpine region, so here we could see the gentian growing here. And this is a purple flower. It belongs to the species of wild peony. It's not close to peony actually, even though they share similar names. And also the petals can be used as medicine. And the leaves could be used for rubbing by the children. We are now walking on the avenue of azalea. It can generate big flowers. Without azalea, we would not have the world garden. Azalea was taken to the Edinburgh Expo in UK to cultivate more species in the family. Globally, there are 800 different species of azalea, and we own about 400 of them in Yunnan province. I could see the bamboos. It's called the Tumidinoda. It's unique in Yunnan province, and we also have a bamboo temple named after this bamboo. There are different species of bamboo actually. Sometimes it takes the bamboos 4 years to grow up. After the rainfall, the bamboos could shoot up very quickly. That's because the roots have been growing underground for a very long time. What about this plant? This is called Agapetes flower. Many birds in Yunnan province would love to fly around the plants to drink its petals. For example, the songbirds, they are really enjoying the givings of the nature. That's an interesting finding for the birds to drink nectar. And this is a special region as well. There are many international species. You can read the name. It's called the agave. And the tequila is named after agave in Chinese. As you could see, it is shaped like the tongue of a snake. We could use this agave to brew delicious alcohol, tequila. So, the plants are giving a lot, enriching our food offerings. Many of the food come from the nature. Now let's go to the tropical area. And we have richer offerings in the tropical area. Entering into this zone, we could hear the waterfall. Right in front of us, we are seeing the Parasharia tree. It's unique in Yunnan. It's very special, found in Xishuangbanna. Previously, the academia never thought that Xishuangbanna could have such a tropical forest, but Mr. Cai Sitao from the Chinese Academy of Science believed that Parasharia was a flagship tree species in the tropical area. So, Xishuangbanna was believed to be tropical. And I see the name of this tree. It's called the upas tree. So is it toxic? Actually, yes. That's a kind reminder for us to see the name. Sometimes when we encounter an unfamiliar plant in the tropical area, do not touch them. In addition to the tree, many other species are toxic, especially the fluid. And here on the board, it says the strangler. That's a very special phenomenon. In the nature, you can see the vines killed a big tree. The vines move around the big tree, which is villosa. And in that way, the vines kill the tree. That's the strangling effect. So this is a very good way for the students to know more about nature. In the greenhouses, they can have a close look at the nature and experience the charm and magic of nature, just like those beautiful plants. In Dai ethnicity, they have 6 trees and 5 unique flowers coming from the nature, and many of those plants have very good meanings. Now we will move out to find more. Like I said, in diethnicity, there are 5 trees and 6 flowers. People tend to believe that those plants are rare. But in Yunnan, many of those magical plants are all around us. If you walk into the field or an inconspicuous garden, you will find them. The children are still in the classroom. Now let's move out. On the plaza, they're having another campaign to publicize the International Day for Biodiversity. And here we have some sketches by the children. They paint about the golden monkeys. Golden monkey is usually in Tibet and Yunnan province. There is one magical species in diethnicity. It's the lotus flower. The flower is pretty big, but it can flower in the field. The bees and butterflies and other interesting animals might be waiting there in the field for you. Here in our camera, we can see some bees collecting the nectar inside. Another interesting thing in front of us, do you see just one plant? I think more than that. It seems very, very luxurious. This plant belongs to the ferns. In the dinosaurs era, what's the use of the ferns? We don't eat the ferns. For greening? Yes, of course. Ferns help us to have coal and oil. So, ferns are the source of the chemicals. So, it takes more than dozens of years for the nature to give us more. It may take like hundreds of millions of years to offer more from nature. Next, we are going to explore the other rare species. We will drive out, and there are many landscaping plants in the garden. Many are very magical and unique species only found in the deep mountains. We have the Alpine pathway and the northwestern part of China, like Henduan Mountain. Today, in this thematic day, there are 7 different pathways to tour around the expo for the visitors. For example, Henduan Mountain, the fossil pathway, Honghe Valley, Baoshan, Tengchong, and so on. So a lot of routes to choose. And just now in the tropical forest, we can find many more species in the tropical area. For example, the fireflies. Fireflies can say something about the local ecology. On our way, you could find the fireflies. Fireflies make the brightness together. They must have a swarm of fireflies in order to generate the brightness. And also we call upon joint efforts to beautify our nature. The banners about this International Day for Biodiversity is on, and it calls upon all of us to make contributions to the biodiversity. Now we enter into the Putuo area, and let's get off the bike. And we will have a visit of the only child of Earth. We call it the only child of Earth because it's very rare. We found only just one tree. Let's look for that one tree. Taxonomy is very useful. From the barks and leaves, we can tell the difference of the tree. And this tree is called the only child of the earth because it's very difficult for the breeding. We relocate the tree in the expo to protect it. I visited Putoshan Mountain. Locally, they have planted 2,000 more the trees. So that's a very good outcome of biodiversity protection. But I'm thinking for biodiversity protection, I think there should be more, like a forest of the trees. But now there is only one here. Because we have to introduce the species from all around the world. For some species, we may have a small forest of them. But for others, we may adopt just one tree, and all the different species live together with the others from around the world. I heard that it's very difficult for this tree to grow up. Yes, breeding depends on technologies, and researchers take different steps to explore new ways of breeding. And we do call upon everyone to be part of this process, so the rare species could still be seen by our descendants. In our daily lives, what can we do to protect biodiversity? Understanding comes first. So let's go into the nature to know more about their properties. And let's take actions and be the practitioners of building a beautiful China. For any species to be extinct, that's the loss of mankind. So we should take care of our nature together. And that's all for the live show in Yunnan Province. Thank you for your watching, and thank you, Madam Li Weiwei, for the introduction. Now, please follow my colleagues in other places to have a look. Good morning. I am Li Enhao, a CMG reporter. And now we are in Henan Province. This is the natural preserve of the macaque. As you can see, we are now walking in the bushes. You could see the macaque around me. And it's very hot. That's why these macaque are playing and hiding in the trees. With the improvement of ecological environment, we have more species of macaque. In addition, in the natural preserves, all the rare animals and plants are well protected in this reserve. And here we will learn more about the macaque. How do they live in the natural preserves? Let's invite our first guest, Mr. Ren. A self-introduction, please. Dear audience, I am from the Daqingshan Mountain Macaque Natural Preserve. My name is Ren Yingfeng. The macaques are very flexible and smart. They can climb and they can jump in the forest. They are very free. Could you please tell us more about this natural preserve? The preserve was founded in 1982, and in 1998 we were elevated to the national level preserve. The total area is about 890,000 square meters. It spans over 3 municipalities. Why is this preserve favored by macaques? In the western part, we have the primitive forest in North China, the only one primitive forest in North China, home to 2,121 species of plants and 100 species of animals. Because of that environment, macaques prefer to habitate over there. According to my knowledge, the Daqingshan Mountain macaque lives the northernmost in China among their peers. And what's the total number of the species? From 1,300, it now grows up to 3,000. And in Jiulishan, it lives there. So the species are enlarging for the macaques. And in the natural preserve, there are such a great offering of the plants and animals. And what is the value for the biodiversity? We protect local data about the resources. Especially, we protect the macaques who live northernmost in China among all the macaque species. The preserve is a good example for people to walk into and experience nature. They learn something about the scientific knowledge of nature. And after establishing the natural preserve, we can also monitor the nature on behalf of the higher learning institutions. I know there are many administrative staff in the preserve. Let's invite Mr. Kwang, who has been managing the macaques for many years, and the macaques feel intimate to him. So, Mr. Kwang, could you please introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. I am a keeper of macaques in the preserve. The macaques are quite mild-tempered, soft-tempered. Seeing us, they don't get furious or irritable. How many macaques do you have now? According to our observation, there are 20 species of macaques in the preserves. The total number is 3,000. For one species, there might be 40 to 50 to as many as 500. When the number grows big enough, they might divide up to avoid competition. What's the difference of macaques living in northern China and South China? In northern China, the macaques have shorter tails, and macaques habitant in southern China has longer tails. And I know that the macaques observe very stringent hierarchy. How does it work? First of all, there is a king. The big king and the secondary king, they have different responsibilities. The big king is the leader, and the secondary king is responsible for finding habitat and taking care of the old. And also there are concubines of the king. Some other macaques might be marginalized. Those marginalized macaques cannot move close to the king, otherwise they will be bullied. So very stringent hierarchy. Also, you can tell their hierarchy from the food. When the king is eating, the others must stand by and just look. So what do they feed on? Three generations in my family dived into the work of protecting macaques. From my grandfather, he observed that the macaques eat up the veggies in this local area. Now, we try to have a balance between the plants growing in the wild and the macaques. In different seasons, we may offer other food to the macaques. For example, in spring, there might be some fruits in the forest. In the winter time, we may offer them barks of the trees or bugs. How many grown-up macaques are there in the Taihang Mountain Preserve? And how big can they grow up to? For the grown-up macaque, at 4 to 6 years old, the male macaque is sub-mature, and from 6 to 8 years old, they are fully mature. They can mate, and then their weight is around a dozen or 2 dozens of kilos. And when they are fully grown, they might weigh at 35 to 40 jin. Some super big macaques may be heavier. You just introduced about the strict hierarchy. Are we lucky today to see the king who might be stronger? This one is the king. It's hiding under the bushes to shed from the sunlight. Look at the size of the king. It's much stronger. What is the responsibility of the king? It must lead the entire family and protect the family. When there is a conflict, the king will be the guide. And sometimes it must lead the entire family to occupy some land or to strive for food against the other tribes. One little monkey is climbing on the shoulders of our cameraman. They're very naughty. And of course, after getting along with them for such a long time, I do feel for them. We do hope that the macaques can live in harmony with man. This is a very cute macaque. When we stand here, they will just jump on top of us. But we do suggest that we keep a distance from the macaques. After all, they are wild animals. Between the different tribes, there might be an election of the king. So how does it go? According to our observation, the newly elected king can serve the term of 2 years. And then they will judge if that king is capable enough to continue the tenure. And if the king grows too old, they might change the king. And also the king needs the support of the female macaques. Once this macaque becomes the king in terms of food and power, this king is overwhelming, even in terms of choosing their spouses. What if for the second term that previous king fails the election? If that's the case, they might be bullied by the new king. And at the same time, they might be the fighter protecting the whole family
on the periphery. This macaque is playing with my hair. I see that the monkeys do prefer to rub each other's hair. So what is that habitat? If they do have a good relationship, they may comb their hair for each other. Actually, they don't have the fleas. They just want to show their intimacy to you. So that's their way of showing their favor for you. And in the mating season, the monkeys do organize each other's hair. If it's the male pursuing the female, then the male monkey may organize the hair of the female monkey. Wars happen frequently between the animals, so what is usually the catalyst of the battle? Usually to occupy new land area. It's getting hotter. I can see there are some water tanks. The pool of water is here to protect the macaques. So in the summertime, the macaques could choose to hide under the trees to relax in the coolness, or they could also jump into the pond to play with water, and they do have fun. For the little monkeys, but not the big ones. In the natural preserve, there must be sufficient water, right? Yes. What is the biggest size of the macaque species? Now we have about 300 at most in that family. So it's truly like the Huaguoshan mountain in the journey to the west. What about the smallest tribe? The smallest tribe may have only 30 to 40 macaques, but usually on average, one family has about 100 monkeys. The small monkeys do like to jump. That small monkey is climbing up above the trees. What is he up to? I don't think he's going to jump into the pond. I've taken so much time with the monkeys, so I can read their facial expressions and their movements. I know what the monkeys are up to. So if you call them, do they respond to you? Yes, they do. Could you try it? They're answering you. They're saying, yes, we're here. So that's about trust. I know many of the macaques are hiding in the bushes because it's very hot. In the summertime, do you prepare some fruits for the macaques? We don't want to interfere in their life in the wilderness. Some monkeys are jumping here and there. The baby macaques are hanging on their mothers. How old are the babies actually? I may be able to see when they are born. Usually when they were born, the mother will hold the baby, and after a while, the baby will grab their mother tightly. April and May are the mating season, and some babies were just born in these recent days. The monkeys have different level of health status. This macaque may be 2 years old. This monkey is speaking, so what does he mean? Is he asking for food? That's one thing, and he also intends to call for attention from other monkeys. If you go very close, they might get irritable. So we cannot stare at the monkeys for a very long time and do not struggle for food against the monkeys. Yes, do not stare at them for very long. Are there any kind reminders for the visitors here? Do not take food with you. The macaques are naughty, so if they see you taking food, they will grab it from you. For your safety perspective, do not take the food here. They may seem very cute, but they are wild animals. And also keep a distance. It's now the mating season. Sometimes the mothers, to protect their children, may attack you. Do they have similar life habits like mankind, like 3 meals a day? They climb downhill even before the dawn time, and they take some short rest and they enjoy the leaves and grasses. Sometimes we may give them some nuts, like peanuts and corns. In the noontime and in the afternoon, they will try to look for their own food. I am impressed by the forest coverage ratio in the preserve and how happy the macaques are. They love to hang and swing in the bushes. And also we can find the macaques on the cliffs. Now, we would love to invite Mr. Ren to introduce more. In the natural preserves, what measures have been taken to protect the macaques? First, management. Second, education. Third, rescue. And fifth, scientific monitoring. The state-owned forests and farms are protected by us. We have some drones to patrol and monitor to ensure that in the natural preserve, once there is any incident, we can have timely resolution. Second, education. With the rich animal and plant resources, we offer diversified learning experiences so the citizens could feel biodiversity here, and they could have a stronger capacity of saving the wild. And third, as to the rescue work for the wildlife, our citizens may give us some clues, and then we go to the help of the injured wildlife. In 2023, there were 195 such events. Third, scientific monitoring. We introduced the Animal Research Institute of Chinese Academy of Science to have dynamic monitoring of the wildlife. We are also working with Henan Normal University to establish Daqingshan Mountain Wildlife Observation Station. With Zhengzhou University, we cooperated to establish the Macaque Research Center in Daqingshan Mountain, so as to contribute to the protection of biodiversity and the establishment of ecological civilization. I see the cottage in the mountains. That's our research center. We have a Macaque Research Center here. The university dispatches some people here for the studies. They study the behaviors of the macaques or the hereditary features of macaques. Let's have a look at the equipment and also if any staff is working here. Some students are doing their researches. Where do you come from? We are from Wuzhizhou University. What's your usual job here? We will collect the behavioral data of the macaques, and the feces are taken inside. We will put them in the fridge first, and then we will do initial analysis here, and then we take the feces back to the lab for more in-depth analysis. So what are you analyzing now? This is the urine test to check their glucose level and urine calcium level to get some information about the health status of the macaques. So those are the data sources for your further research. What's the next step? In the urine and the feces and hair, there might be some level of composition to reflect the stress level. For example, the hormone level. Like the cortisol level can reflect the monkey's stress level. In the feces, we could learn something about the change of the number. My last question. What inspired you to come here to study macaques? Wildlife are man's good friends. Because of fragmentation of their habitat, the numbers of the wildlife are declining. So we hope to better protect them and reduce the pressure on their life. Coming to the mountains, we could have a close look at the species. And Taihang Mountain is home to more species. That may be one reason for you to come here. And please keep on the work. We will not drag on. Mr. Ren, you just mentioned you found a lot of rare species. And some wildlife were firstly found. So could you introduce the details about the wildlife you have found with dynamic monitoring? We took photos of the first level national rare species, the leopard. And after the analysis by the professors, the number of the Panthera leopard rose up from 6 to 8 to 9 to 13. And also in Taihang Mountain, for the first time, we have found the brown-eared pheasant. In 2019, there were 206 different bird species in the forest. But now, according to our monitoring, the number rose to 238. So, the number of species is enlarging. What about the trees? In the beginning, there were about 1,800 different tree species, and in 2019, that number was up by to 2,121. So, more diversified tree species. And what measures have you taken? We are working together with the universities, and regularly we will have a survey and do our statistics. So you're still doing the same thing? Yes, based on the protection work on a daily basis, we will continue the monitoring. And based on the data we collected, we know that the Taihang Mountain could be said as the natural zoo. Now, Mr. Kwang, introduce more to us about the macaques. In addition to the habits of the macaques, like the hierarchical system, could you please introduce more to us? For example, do they observe monogamy? In October and November, that's the mating season. In the beginning, it's usually the male monkey pursuing the female monkey. And if the female monkey fails to get pregnant, the female monkey will go after the male monkeys. Basically, they have fixed spouse in 1 year to ensure that they can get pregnant. Sometimes the female monkey may find a new choice to mate. And also the female monkeys pursue the protection of the male monkeys, especially to protect their children. Maybe the male monkeys do not know exactly who is their baby. So that's a very important way for the species to exist for long. After years of your efforts in your family, what's your overall impression about this natural preserve? In the beginning till now, the number of species has climbed up, and now the quality of the macaques has been improved. We just saw the king. One important feature of the king is the tail shoots up, especially when the two tribes are fighting. The king may give orders at night time, and then usually when it gives orders, the tail is up. What about the other macaques? Their tail goes down. That may be one way for the other monkeys to compliment the king, especially the male monkeys. So when the king is around, authority is there. Thank you, Mr. Kwang. And in the interest of time, that's about the Taihang Mountain Macaque Natural Preserve Center.